Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Thanks for tuning in. Got a real quick video here. We're going to be talking about the Lebu people of Senegal. I'm going to introduce you to this historian, as it says here, a Lebu historian, Umar and Galagwe. One of the original Lebu families is Gwe, so he comes from one of the original families of the Lebu people. It says Omar Gwe is a recognized expert in the history of the Lebu people, Almami, and I met with him again yesterday to lay the groundwork for a series of filmed interviews on the topic of Lebu, history, and culture. This is the first in that extended series and focuses on the migration of the Lebu from India. From where? From India. They mean most likely Hindustan, through Egypt and the Sahara to Senegal and the Cape Verde Peninsula, right? Through the Sahara. So we got a whole route of migration. This is confirmed by him and his elders, an expert in the history of the Lebu people. The aim at present is to create a comfortable milieu and an easy rhythm both for Omar and Almami, who is doing the Wolof English translation. The interview is filmed in Omar's home in Joff. So this is one of the original uploads of his interview. It says here from 14 years ago, okay? And I just want you guys to hear the quality. And I had to do a lot of audio fixing, mastering just to get it to sound good so we can be able to interpret it and put some subtitles on it, right?
Assalamu alaikum mbooloo mi janoog ñun ñu ngi nuyu mbokk tey jii ci maa ngi nuyu ñëpp ndax sant Yàlla toog tey moo ko jox.
Say hello to everybody who's going to see this video.
All right, so that's the original and that's the translator. You can barely hear the translator. There's a lot of noise. So, I went ahead and I fixed a little bit of this interview. We're going to hear it from the horse's mouth himself. He's going to tell us where his people are from. We're talking about the Lebu people in Senegal. And we're talking about this part of the world right here. When we go into Senegal, and we go to Dakar region, they're right here, right in this peninsula mostly. All right, and they're saying they came through the Sahara, and we're going to see later, most likely through Mauritania, through Egypt, right? Egypt's right here, possibly through North Pakistan, and in between Afghanistan, going down into India. All right, maybe even Sri Lanka. We'll see. All right, so before we continue, I just wanted to real quick remind you of what we have shown before, of the incredible images and photos of many of the people of this area, the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia, right? This whole area right here, India, Southeast Asia. Look, Andaman Island. Andaman Islands are in between Hindustan and Southeast Asia. You guys all know what we've shown before. People from the Philippines, all these areas. I'm going to show you a lot of the images they never show us. Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, all these, the Fijis, all these. Tonga. Now you guys remember Samoa. All the images that we're showing, I'm going to show those again real quick. All right? So you can understand that there is melanated, so-called Negro people, original, indigenous to these parts of the world, especially Hindustan right here, so-called India. So here we got a girl from Tamil, Ceylon, Sri Lanka. That's where that temple was that said Gangata Maya. All right, that's one of the people right here. We got a mother and son. All right, they're from India, an Indian woman. All right, India. These are pictures of them living in Trinidad. Okay. Rastama. Hey, you guys seen my Rastafari video? A lot of the Hindu culture, they had dreadlocks, This is from Southeast Asia, Papua New Guinea, I believe. All right, these people are indigenous to this part of the world, guys. And some more, in India or Hindustan and Pakistan, all these places. Right, a young Indian woman from Bombay. All right, these are from the Philippines. They call the so-called Negritos from the Philippines. All right, Statue of Buddha. You see the hair. All right, Nueva Caledonia, New Caledonia. You guys saw the map. I showed you guys. Look, this is who's there. They have no history of coming from Africa. Kanakis, Tribu Bele from Nueva Caledonia, all right? Also from New Caledonia. Do you guys see? So it's conjecture to say all these people came out of Africa. Their oral traditions and all that doesn't state that. In fact, most of them say they're coming from, a lot of them, like people here in the Fiji Islands and stuff, they're saying they're coming from the Pacific, in a sunken island or an old ancient land to the east, right? What's over there, right? The Americas, huh? More right here. Coolie woman in Trinidad, all right? Do you see that? We got Fijian woman right here. You see the hair, the woolly hair. That was their style. They've been rocking that since ancient times, That's part of their culture, traditions. We got some Gampola Kandiman chiefs from Lankapura. You see that? Hindu girl. You see that? So when they're Lebu are saying we come from India, why would you doubt that? We can't add conjectures to that. This is a Hindu woman. Another one right here. Indentured servant, coolie girl in the Caribbean. All right, an indentured servant from India. Do you guys see that? What do you mean the Lebu? They're telling you they're coming from India. It says Negritos, the original inhabitants of the Philippines. See that? You see this? Come on now. From the Fijis, New Caledonia. Come on now. Look at that. Look at that. Come on. Open your eyes. All right. New Caledonia, the Fiji people. Very woolly hair. Look at that. That was their style. They rocked that. These I forget. They're not from India. They're from another island in Southeast Asia. Forget the name. But in my Black Asian videos, we go over the exact details. You want to go take a look at it. A Fijian. Look at this with his pick. Right? A Fijian with his pick. Okay, that's part of their culture, guys. They're from there. All right, I believe this is from the Philippines. And from the Philippines as well. The Naga village. It's even called Naga village. All right, in the Philippines. Fiji says cannibals, right? They try to call them cannibals. That's messed up. But you guys see? You see them rocking a couple feathers, huh? Papua New Guinea, man. And these are from the Polynesians. And they're from the same tribe, guys. They're Polynesian. They're actually from the same tribe. Look. Portraits of a Sinhalese girl. All right, the Sinhalese people very melanated as well. Sentinelese man, you see that? Sentinelese man, Sentinelese. Okay, again, this is all in Southeast Asia. Sinhalese woman, all right, all Southeast Asia. Sinhalese devil dancers, it says, right? But check out the art, looking like a lot of the African tribes. Doesn't mean they came from Africa. You might be seeing it in reverse. You heard Tamil girl from Ceylon, where the Gangata temple is. Okay? And why are slanted eyes only associated with Asian people, right? This is Dinka in Africa, tribe in Africa, and this is the Khoisan. Come on now. Well, you got a tribal New Caledonian man right here. Buddha. Look at this. All right. Pictures of ancient black Buddha. He was a revolutionary freedom fighter prince against the Euro Ages. So, this is really old, very Pan-African images. You see? They're saying the Lebu are saying they're coming from India. Hey, guys, I can go all day. Some more people here from Papua New Guinea. This girl is from Vietnam. This is a Vietnamese woman on the borders of China's Yunnan province. Martinique, a Hindu woman in Martinique. All right, Fijian. We got from the Philippines, a Naga warrior from the Philippines. Warriors from Fiji, they're carrying something here, a hunt. Oh, I don't know if that's a man. Indian bride and groom. A Nacha girl, Madras, India. A Sholaga man, 99, India. These are Aeta people. The Aeta, so-called Negritos of the Philippines. all right, of the Philippines. I ate a woman and child from the Philippines, okay? So if the Lebu are telling you they came from India, you gotta listen. This video, 14 years old when they did that interview. And that website is from 2010. And nobody listened. Nobody learned. Everybody's still with their out of Africa theories. They disrespected and disregarding what the historian of his people is saying. This is an Ainu woman in Japan, all right? An Ainu woman in Japan. The Ainu, yes, very melanated. The Ainu. All four people, most likely Alune people in the mountains of Seram. A Batak, a woman, Sumatra, right, from Sumatra. And here's some statues. You see the hair. Look at that. Do you remember who you are? Do you see this? Do you see this? All right. I mean, I think I've shown enough. You want to see more images, guys? Go check out my Black Asian videos where we go over all these images. We go over how these people were enslaved and brought to the Americas as well. That's a whole middle passage nobody ever really talks about. So I'm going to go back to the video. Just wanted to go ahead and remind everybody that this region of the world had so-called Negroes there. And we're going to read an article just to remind you again on the Andaman Islanders, a scientific research showing you their haplogroup is Asian. They are not coming out of Africa. So most of these people have the same story. They're from there or possibly coming from other parts of the world, but not necessarily only Africa. So again, we're going to get the story, the origin of his people. He's the expert. He's from the Lebu Tribe. He's from one of the oldest families of the Lebu people. And you can't ignore what he's telling you. He knows where his people are coming from. It was passed down to him. As you guys can see here, it's 8 clips, it's 8 videos, and it's only on one little segment of clip 2 that we're going to go ahead and show. But he talks about, you know, how his grandma had passed it down to him, and then his mom passed it more down, and then he did more research, and he was able to verify it. And he knows where his people are coming from. We're going to get it from him. So let's go to that right now.
Donc xam-xam boobu moom laa war waxtaane tey à travers le monde.
So this is the knowledge is the knowledge he's going to talk about today to share with the world.
muy xam-xam boo xam ne mu ngi wàcc jëm ci wàllu lébu.
And this knowledge is came from the Lebu's community.
ndax lébu dañu am culture bu mag.
And the Lebus, they have a big culture.
am cosaan bu mag.
And they have a big tradition.
am diine aussi.
And also they have a religion.
kon kenn warul waxtaane lébu rek nga ñëw rek commencé Sénégal parce que lébu commencé wul Sénégal.
So it doesn't mean, for example, if you're talking about Lebu, you cannot only start in Senegal, you know, because Lebu doesn't come from Senegal.
parce que suñu maam yi dañuy wax ne lébu mu ngi commencé Inde.
Because his ancestors, they said Lebu is came from India.
parce que lébu yi dëkkoon nañu Inde.
Because the Lebu, they used to live in India.
All right. Did you guys catch all that? So let me go back. He says, and also, they have a region.
And also, they have a religion. So.
And so he says, so if you're talking about Lebu, you cannot only start in Senegal, you know, because Lebu does not start from Senegal.
But it doesn't mean, for example, if you're talking about Lebu, you cannot only start in Senegal, you know, because Lebu doesn't come from Senegal.
Because his ancestors, they said, Lebu they came from India. All right, they came from India. This is from him, of his people. He's telling you.
Because his ancestors, they said Lebu is came from India.
parce que lébu yi dëkkoon nañu Inde.
Because the Lebu, they used to live in India.
Because the Lebu, they used to live in India.
suñu maam yi nee nañu lébu yi def nañu 1000 ans en Inde.
And his ancestors, they said the Lebus, they live, they stay in India for 1,000 years.
So he says, and the Lebus, they stay in India for about 500 years, I guess he's saying.
alors bi yàlla attee ñu jóge Inde nag ci lañ ñëw Égypte.
And when by God, you know, in the future, they leave India, they came to Egypt.
All right, so they were in India again, and they basically, he's saying they went through Egypt on their way before they got to Senegal. And as we read earlier, they went through the Sahara.
bi ñu ñëw Égypte ça fait 525 ans avant Jésus-Christ.
When they came to Egypt, it was 525 years before the Greece.
All right, so they're saying when they came to Egypt, that was like around the year 525 BC. That's what he's saying, right? We can touch the hijack on the chronologist, but the story, the memory of them, where they were coming from, is still passed down to them, right?
Alors foofu Lébu yi dañ fi amoon une organisation boo xam ne bi organisation bu mag la.
And in Egypt, the Lebus community, they have a big organization in Egypt.
They had a big organization in Egypt, he says.
mais bari na lu écrivain yi di wax nag mais source ba duñ ko mën wax parce que duñu Lébu.
A lot of writers, they talk about the Lebu's history, but they cannot go deep because they are not Lebus.
All right, that was a big one right there. He's saying, yeah, many people can write about it and talk about the Lebu, but they can never get deep because they are not Lebu. They don't know. They don't know. And this goes out to every, Pan-African out there who has trouble with this. And I know a lot of you say, well, they still came out of Africa. No, that's conjecture. You can't prove that. And that's the fact. We know that you can't prove that. And you got to live with that fact. You know you can't prove that. That's just your wishful thinking. He's telling you they're from India. Doesn't mean they were coming from Africa, from there. Again, the Andaman Islanders, right? They are an Asian group. They don't come out of Africa. They are indigenous to Asia. So why wouldn't they be also indigenous?
Parce que Lébu nit la.
Because Lebu is a human being.
Because Lebu is a language, he's saying. I think that's what he's saying. It's very hard to understand the interpreter or the translator. I had to really fix the audio, guys. What you guys heard, this is from the horse's mouth themselves. The Lebu, historian expert of his people. He's Guay, or Guay, his last name. They're one of the original families of the Lebu. He says in one of the videos, his grandma, his mom passed it down to him. He knows who he is, guys. They were coming from India. So real quick, since I mentioned it earlier, I want to show you guys what I mean. Now, these are the Andaman Islanders, right? This is what they look like. I showed you guys where the Andaman Islands are, right? The Andaman Islands are right here, right in the middle between Hindustan and Southeast Asia. You see Thailand here. You got Singapore right here, Malaysia. So this is where they are. And this is the people that are from there. All right, this is the people. This is what they look like. Okay, this is what they look like, guys. Andaman Islanders. I'm going to show you a very scientific investigation telling you that these people have the M haplogroup, that these people are original to Asia. This is where they're from. So real quick, we're going to read from this, but this is just a refresh so you don't think I'm just making things up. This is from the Current Biology, Volume 13, pages 86 to 93 from January 21st, 2003. The genetic affinities of the Andaman Islanders, a vanishing human population. And here are all the people involved, right? Center for Cellular Molecular Biology, Hyderabad Anthropological Survey of India, the Regional Medical Research Center, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, India Department of Genetics, Stanford University, all right, Biochemistry Department, University of Otago, Department of Biology, University of Oslo. The Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal are inhabited by hunter-gatherers of unknown origin, now on the verge of extinction, guys. So you see, they have not proven that they came from Africa. That's just people saying that because they look so-called black or like Negroes, so they automatically try to put them in Africa because of their indoctrinated out of Africa theories. The Andamanese and other Asian small-statured peoples, traditionally known as Negritos, resemble African pygmies. However, it is generally believed that they descend from the early Australo-Melanesian settlers of Southeast Asia, and that their resemblance to some Africans is due to adaptation to a similar environment rather than shared origins. It's not because they kin folk. Again, all skin folk ain't kin folk. So what do? We analyze mitochondrial DNA sequences and RFLP polymorphisms and Y chromosomes, biallelic markers, and microsatellites in present-day Andamanese of the Onge, Jaragua, and Great Andamanese tribes, and of inhabitants of the neighboring Nicobar Islands. We also analyze mtDNA sequence from Andamanese hair samples collected by an ethnographer during 1906-1908. Living Andamanese exhibit low genetic variability that is consistent with their small population size and reproductive isolations. Conclusions. Our data indicate that the Andamanese have closer affinities to Asian than to African populations. Have closer affinities to Asian than to African populations. And suggest that they are the descendants of the early Paleolithic colonizers of Southeast Asia. In contrast, the Nicobarese have genetic affinities to groups widely distributed throughout Asia today, presumably descended from Neolithic agriculturalists. All right, so guys, we're gonna go to my old video I did, it says about a year ago. It says Andaman Islanders, indigenous people are not from Africa. H&M haplogroup, science proves it. All right, we're gonna go ahead and belly flop to about 5 minutes into the video. We're gonna get this like it's the first time. Again, not everybody that's so-called black came out of Africa. You gotta break that spell. We're at the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information, PubMed Central, published online 2002, December 11th. The genetic origins of the Andaman Islanders, and these are all the people involved, as you guys can see. Mitochondrial sequences were retrieved from museum specimens of the enigmatic Andaman Islanders to analyze their evolutionary history. D-loop and protein coding data reveal that phenotypic similarities with African pygmoid groups are convergent. All right, so phenotypic similarities doesn't mean they are the same people, meaning they look like the African pygmoid groups. They're letting you know they look similarity, right? But we're going to talk about genetics here. Now it says genetic and epigenetic data are interpreted as favoring the long-term isolation of the Andamanese, extensive population substructure and or two temporarily distinct settlements. An early colonization featured populations bearing mtDNA lineage M2. And this lineage is hypothesized to represent the phylogenetic signal of an early southern movement of humans through Asia. The result demonstrates that Victorian anthropological collections can be used to study extinct or seriously admixed populations to provide new data about early human origins. All right, so we got the beautiful Andaman children here. Tribal indigenous Andaman Islanders. See, this is the part I wanted to show you guys. This is science, all right? This is not just me saying. This is not me trying to hate on Africa or Africans. This is just what the research is telling us. Now it says here the protein coding region sequences produce clear results with no ambiguities and show that all 12 specimens possess 10400T and 10398G, placing them in the Asian M haplogroup. Okay, placing them in the Asian M haplogroup. Okay, remember that. Let's highlight that. That's from these all, and that's these scientists right here, Macaulay and Richards, telling you. And watch what they're gonna say. They said, and ruling out an African origin. Okay, ruling out an African origin. All right, are you guys seeing this? It's not me. All right, ruling out an African origin. African or not African, ruling it out. It's not African, okay? Not African. Asian M haplogroup, ruling out an African origin. All right, and you guys can keep going with the research. I just wanted to show you guys that. All right, their haplogroups is going back to the Asian M haplogroup, ruling out an African origin. Ruling out an African origin. The Andaman Islanders are not from Africa genetically either. It's not just anybody saying it. We're not hating on anybody. We're just trying to correct history, and it's okay. There was dark-skinned people all over the world. There was indigenous dark folks all over the world. Yeah. Let them know, Kurimeo. So that's the video. Make sure to catch everything. I skipped a lot, you know. So again, they're from the Andaman Islands. This is right next to Hindustan or India. Remember, the Lebu are telling you they came from India. We already know there's black folks or so-called Negroes that are indigenous to these parts of the world. We just proved it right there with genetics. It's conjecture to say that the Lebu originally came out of Africa before they went into India. You can't prove that part. You can't prove it at all. At all. And you got to live with that. It's all beliefs. And you're stuck on beliefs like a religious person. It's all beliefs. Now we're going to go back to the video for the dismount. All right. Real quick, I'm going to read from this website. It's the University of Redlands, redlands.edu. All right, and it says here, moving frontiers of climate change and violence in West Africa. The Lebu migrations of the 11th century. All right, Middle Ages. This is literally when they're starting to move in. They're becoming historical people in Senegal right there. It says, today the Lebu fisherfolk inhabit Dakar and the coastal towns and villages of Cape Verde in Senegal. According to multiple oral traditions, all right, multiple oral traditions from across the region, the ancestors of the Lebu originally lived to the northeast in the Hajj region of modern Mauritania, right? The Hajj region, Mauritania, and were forced to leave during the 11th century due to drought and warfare. This research project blends different research methodologies and mappings to spatially analyze this initial stage in the Lebu migrations into the area, okay? The first waves of Lebu settlers arrived on the Green Cape as early as the 16th century, to be followed by later waves over the next 2 centuries, all right? Very recent to this area. They're not ancient to this part of Africa, all right? So they're saying, again, they're coming from, remember, they were coming from India. So in Senegal, eventually there is a migration path they have to take, right? So they're in Senegal right here. He's saying they're beyond the Senegal River. A lot of their the Senegambia peoples are actually, their tales are all beyond, you know, they're coming from somewhere else, most of them. And he's saying Mauritania, right here. He's saying the Hajj region would be right here. So Senegal, Dakar going towards Egypt would be on the way. It would be on the way, guys. Look at that. This is what I'm saying. That makes sense that they have a history of them being over here, a settlement probably, right? Because that was on the way, right? So on the way, you go from Senegal, you go right here, and then you coming from Egypt, right? You travel all this and, you know, to India. Or did they do this all by ship, you know? Continuing on the website, it says, while the Lebu oral sources are extremely valuable, all right, the oral we just heard, right? Omar tell us his people are from India. He knows the history. It says, fortunately, Arabic written sources provide clues to the presence of this proto-Lebu population in the Hajj region. Al-Bakri Kitab al-Masalik wal-Mamalik, published in 1068, is one of the most reliable of these sources and speaks of a population of black farmers, the Gangata, from which Gangata is derived, who lived in the highlands northwest of the commercial city of Ad-Dakhus, raiding passing caravans and fighting desert pastoralists. 2 archaeological studies, the first by Dabu and Tupet in 1963 and the second by Munir in 1974, located and mapped Gangata sites in the Hod and surrounding Tajan and Asaba highland. Gangata. All right, so is that possibly the name that they went by? Right? Over here, we got this article says the Wangara or the Gangara. That's another way of saying it. Wangan, an old Soninke diaspora in West Africa. So they're saying this article is also saying they might have ended up in West Africa. This is by Andreas W. Masson from the Cahiers de Estudios Africanis, volume 40. Again, the Wangara, an old Sonica diaspora in West Africa. Says the Wangara, while revealing slightly different identities at different times and in different regions and being tied at times to specific locations, while at other times covering vast geographic ranges, nevertheless show a common denominator, involvement in the long-distance trade between desert side and forest fringe and in the propagation of Islamic faith. Al-Bakri mentions the Gangara as a group of blacks in the neighborhood of the Senghaha town of Banklabi, and further east a group of Berbers, non-Muslims, blacks Beni Negmara in the neighborhood of Gyaru and Itrega, 2 towns near the Niger. Alright, so if this is them, this is what they're saying. He didn't mention that, I don't know, but they could have gone by that name. It probably means something. You know what the funny thing is, when I googled that name, I got like Hindu stuff, right? Or Asia stuff. So like this, Gangara, and then you got Maya, right? Gangara, Maya. And guess what this is? Right? They're saying Tamil, right? I show images of the people of Tamil in Sri Lanka. All right, Sri Lanka. Where is Sri Lanka? Tamil people, they're from southern India, right? So that would match coming from India. Imagine if they're coming all the way from Sri Lanka, right? Going all the way up, right? So India, Gangara, huh? And then I found this, World History Encyclopedia, Gangara. You see that? Gangara civilization. The Gangara civilization existed in what is now northern Pakistan and Afghanistan from the middle of the first millennium BC to the beginning of the second millennium CE. Alright, so the extent of Gangara, although mentioned in historical sources at least as far back as the reign of Achaemenid King Cyrus the Great, Gangara was not known to have been geographically described in detail until the pilgrimage of the Buddhist monk Xuanzang. Alright, so again, northern Pakistan and Afghanistan. Let me just show you guys where that is. Alright, this is Pakistan, Afghanistan, right? So it is on the way coming from India, right? If you're going into Egypt, right? And then you're going into Mauritania just to get to Senegal. Or I'm sorry, Mauritania is over here, my fault. So I'm sure there's more migration stories of them somewhere else. But as you guys can see, this could be possible. Gangara, Maya. Uh-oh, are they really coming out of Africa? Maya. So again, Omar Gouet is a recognized expert in the history of Lebu. He's telling you their people come from India. And in this website, it's in French, but it says Les Orígenes de Familias Lebu, the original families of the Lebus. And you guys are going to see that the family Gouet is one of them. All right? His family is one of the original Lebu families, so he should know where they are from, right? And also, just want to show this, the Diop family is also, all right, one of the first Lebu families. So most likely the heritage coming from Hindustan. Don't ignore what these people are telling you. Lebu historian Omar Ngala Gouet, an expert of his people's history, letting you know that his people made a migration from India through Egypt and the Sahara to Senegal, and then eventually to the Cape Verde Peninsula there near Dakar. All right, the Lebu are from India. Don't practice cognitive dissonance. Wow.